how long do I need to continue doing hyperbaric to keep these benefits? It really depends on what your goals are. There is no one size fits all answer to a question like that. Let's take a few scenarios. If you used hyperbaric for an issue that you had, and that issue had a beginning and an end, in other words, it was a traumatic event. You broke an arm, you have a tendonitis, a TBI, or concussion, a brain injury of some kind. Well, if you used hyperbaric as a tool to help improve your healing and recovery, and ultimately you reach a point where you're now healed and recovered, you could basically stop hyperbaric completely and expect that your healing is complete. There should be no reason that removing the therapy would allow for a downslide of your issues or symptoms. Once something is healed, you get to keep it and you get to keep it forever. Some people in that scenario might find that there were other benefits. So I did hyperbaric for my TBI, but I also found it helped X, Y, or Z. And as a result, even though my TBI is now healed, I'm choosing to do hyperbaric on an ongoing capacity because I enjoy those other benefits that I've noticed. Let's contrast that to a condition that doesn't necessarily have a beginning and an end. Autoimmune conditions are pretty common examples. Neurodegenerative diseases are often good examples of this. In other words, somebody is diagnosed with a condition and that condition isn't necessarily going to be cured in a way where they no longer need to address the problem. And so in those cases, what we're going to do is we're going to still do a pretty significant, at least initial protocol, answering the question, is this good for me? Do I like it? And am I getting the responses that I'm trying to get? Am I ultimately going to see the improvements that I want? If you go through that initial protocol and you find, yes, I do like it, I did enjoy it, and I'm getting the results that I'm looking for, because this disease process doesn't necessarily have an end, it's very likely that using hyperbaric as a portion of your continued care is very likely. What that might look like is going to vary dramatically, just like it does with other issues. What's the severity? How quickly do symptoms start coming back? Is the inflammation rising again? Once you've done your initial protocol and you've taken a little bit of a break, how do you do during that break? If inflammation starts to rise again or other symptoms start to flare up again, we're going to want to go back and start putting hyperbaric sessions in and figure out for you what's the right balance, or for your patient, what's the right balance of therapies? Is it once a month? Is it once a week? Is it twice a week? Is it a 20-hour protocol over a 3 to 4 week period, followed by a 3-month break, and then another 20-hour protocol in a 3 to 4 week period, followed by another 3-month break? There are many different ways that the ongoing care might look after the initial protocol. However, if you found benefit from the treatment and your disease process is a continuous process, we're going to have to figure out where hyperbaric fits in your regular therapy protocol long term to make sure that we're maintaining the benefits that we got initially. And then there's other issues like mitochondrial dysfunction or just generalized inflammation. It's not been diagnosed. We don't have an exact answer for what it is other than the symptoms that either you or a patient of yours are experiencing. In those cases, we will do an initial protocol. Again, just to answer the question, are we getting the results that you're looking for? And then we can leave it alone, right? So let's use inflammation as an example. Is hyperbaric effective for reducing inflammation? Generally speaking, yes. 1, by reducing inflammatory cytokines. 2, by increasing anti-inflammatory cytokines. And 3, by increasing the regulatory cytokines, helping to maintain balance of inflammation throughout your system. So you have this elevated inflammation, you do a protocol of hyperbaric, it brings your inflammation down. We can now pull the therapy, and if ultimately we had gotten to the root cause of your issue, there's no reason to think the inflammation will continue to rise. If, however, there is still an other root issue creating inflammation in your body, well, then we may have either reduced it, but now as we take a break from hyperbaric and the inflammation starts to climb, your symptoms start to come back. And now what we'll do is we'll put hyperbaric back in, bring it back down, and now we have to try to find, again, one of two things. Either the rhythm of hyperbaric that helps keep the inflammation at bay, or now we need to start digging deeper to figure out what is the root cause of the inflammation. Can we get rid of that so that not only can we get rid of the root, we can actually stop hyperbaric and keep that patient completely balanced and keep their inflammation at bay. Those are all the different ways to consider this question of how long does somebody have to do hyperbaric in order to get the benefits? Maybe you just bought your first chamber, or you're thinking about buying your first chamber. Maybe that's a home use chamber, or perhaps you're considering offering hyperbaric inside your clinic. And if you're anything like me when I first started, you're realizing how much information there is out there and you're concerned, are you doing this the right way? Are you being safe? How am I going to utilize this hyperbaric chamber in the most effective way possible? If you're just getting involved in hyperbarics and you're looking for an introductory training program, the basic hyperbaric technician program is exactly what you need. In this course, we're going to cover how does hyperbaric work? Why does hyperbaric work? What makes hyperbaric oxygen such a unique therapy? What mechanisms of action are taking place? What are the benefits of hyperbaric, both short and long term? And what types of indications are appropriate to utilize hyperbaric for? We will also help build your confidence, not only in how to utilize the therapy, but how to talk about this therapy with patients or with other healthcare providers that may not understand hyperbarics the way you will once you finish this course. So if you're ready to dive in, click the link below this video and let's get started.